So what I want to talk about now is doing assessments of overshadowing on adjoining properties and buildings. And obviously there's two aspects to this. One is, if you're developing or adding to an existing property and you have to worry about the overshadowing of your design on adjoining properties. And the alternative is, when you actually own an adjoining property or you're representing your client owns an adjoining property and they want to understand the impact of some development on their property. And the best thing that can happen here is that everybody understands exactly what's going on and what the real impact of the shadows is, because we all know that the immediate reaction of everyone is just to object, even if there are no grounds for that. So let's switch to the model that's been given to us by Kennedy Associates, and this initial view is at sunrise in the summer solstice, and you'll notice here that I have use solar time checked now, and when you check this option, daylight saving is taken out of the picture. Now, solar access is generally about the duration of interference or the duration of sunlight. It's not about the times of the day. And if you go to the Land and Environment Court in New South Wales or another court in Australia, and you're talking about overshadowing, then what the court is interested in is the duration of time, okay, not the time that the overshadowing begins or ends. And if you use solar time, then you take all of the ambiguities out of the daylight saving, not daylight saving, what time of the day is, and you can just assess it using the solar time. And this also means that at midday the sun is directly overhead, so you also take out the geographical anomalies where we automatically adjust the time zones. I mean, in Australia the time zones are very broad, and obviously 12 midday in Sydney is not going to be the same as 12 midday in Broken Hill or somewhere like that, even though they're both in the same time zone. So using solar time removes all of that ambiguity and actually shows the sun as it is, exactly at that position. So with solar time turned on, December 22, let's first just try and get some understanding of what the sun is doing here. So we are at sunrise position now, and if we click the view sun to center of layer plane, and we'll just scrub this backwards and forwards until it comes clear. Okay, there we go. So I can now move this around and just get an understanding. So I'm sitting on the sun watching the building and coming all the way around to sunset, and so I can get a really good idea in this one pass of what the sun is doing during the day. And if I slow it down when I get to, and what we're looking at here is the overshadowing of our building, which is this one, onto this adjoining property here, and you can see that we can see the windows there, and I would say at this point in time, which is 10:24 a.m., you can see that's after that time there's no overshadowing on that building at all. Okay, and of course you could be zoomed in closer to actually get the exact time. So if you were the neighbor here worried about the overshadowing, during the day and in the afternoon, you could actually produce a movie, export movie, and do this animation and actually show them that there's no overshadowing past that time of the day, and that could well allay their fears of the impact of your development. So doing a viewport of a scene like this is not a bad idea. You can say, you can label it, this is the latest time in the day when there's any impact, and this is a view from the sun. So you can actually use a view like this in a viewport, if I click OK now, this is going to be the view that stays there, and I can then plug that into a viewport. You can use that to bolster your case that the impact on this building is fairly benign. But of course, and if we go back to, say, the sun from current view, actually we'll just change the position of this. So what I want to do is to kind of be able to get the model into a position where I can see this facade, but then switch back to casting shadows. Not quite sure why that won't go back to sun. I'll just click OK, and here we are. So you can see we're getting the same result. Now I'm actually, with this view, looking at the shadows. So, you know, there is definitely morning shadows there, but they're all, you can watch and keep watching and see the shadows disappear. So that's the other way to make an assessment, to actually watch what the shadows are doing. But obviously, when you've got properties very close together like this, that can be difficult, and that's when being able to cut a section through here and use that process to document what's actually happening is useful, and we'll do that now. I just wanted to kind of give you as a designer some ways of making an assessment and feeling confident about, you know, the impacts of your design. So let's go ahead and click OK, and we'll just go back to the plan view here. And so what we want to do now is to looking at 9 AM is to cut a section through here. And if you do use solar time, then you know you need to specify that on the shadow diagram. And I think if more councils really understood what shadows were all about, then they would probably nominate that you needed to use solar time. But let's say we're not at that point in time yet, so we will turn on daylight saving, because that's going to be in effect in the summer solstice. So let's now go to create section viewport, and we're going to cut a viewport through here between these two buildings, and I can do this by drawing the line and then doing a second click and then flipping over here. Which way do we want to look? We want to look to the left, and double click when we're done. So we're going to put this on our shadow diagrams layer, and we'll leave the scale at 1 to 100. The rendering, well, let's use our dark shadows rendering style, and under advanced properties display, you'll see here that you actually have the option to cast shadows of objects removed by section. In other words, casting shadows of our building, which is removed by the section. So that needs to be on. It is on by default, but in case, you know, if you one day aren't getting shadows, that could be the reason. So we'll click OK to that, and then OK again, and our section will be created. We'll just click the update button, and the shadows will come through on the adjoining building. I'll just zoom in a little bit. Now we have used the Renderworks style on this. You can see the definition of what's happening here is quite dark. That's because the ambient lighting is quite low with that Renderworks style. So if you did want to tweak that a little bit, we can click on lighting options, and you'll see under lighting the ambient light is just set to 10%. So you know, if you set that up to, you know, somewhere around 30%, and then we do an update, you'll see that the whole thing will lighten up a little bit. And of course, as with the other viewports, you can also overlay two different render modes. So if you wanted a hidden line, again with the settings we used before, and we update that, you'll get a little bit more definition on what's happening. So that's how you can cut a shadow or cast a shadow onto an adjoining building, and hopefully that this documentation, and perhaps along with one of the other views from the sun, which I talked about earlier, can help get your case that the impact is not that severe for your shadows, or maybe is severe.